Welcome everyone to VPE Thursday. Today we have our first of 6 manufacturers that are going to sit down and chat with our dear Joe over at PERC. They have been working for many years together to get this system up into the market. So they're going to go through having a back and forth, very casual conversation on how it got from an idea to actually being installed. So Joe and Tom from Blue Mountain, we welcome you and thank you so much for joining us. And please know if you have a question to either write it in the comments, or if you're a brave soul, just raise your hand and I will unmute you. So Joe, take it away. It's all yours.
Well, thank you, Mary Rachel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Joe Calhoun, Associate Director of Business Development here at PERC. We are doing, as Mary Rachel alluded to, a series on CHP, micro CHP here on the VPE. And in addition to that, we wanted to include Tom Young's technology at Blue Mountain Energy, which is an opportunity to use propane as a cooling as well as a heating component. So we don't often think about propane in mechanical cooling, but Tom has a unique technology, and you can see there's some links being posted in the chat box for you to click through about Blue Mountain Energy. So with that, let me introduce Tom. He's worked with us at PERC for a number of years on projects. You just introduce about yourself a little bit, and then we'll talk about your technology, Tom.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Young with Blue Mountain Energy. And for some of those that are on the webinar today, that would also be known as IntelliChoice Energy in the last prior decade. And our relationship started off with PERC in a very nice positive way is when we were in development of the gas cooling product. Obviously, we were focusing on dry fuel. At the time was natural gas, but with our technology and how it's designed, it doesn't matter if it's propane, natural gas, biofuel, renewable. I can pick any type of BTU dry fuel and make this product run. So PERC's relationship with us started off very early in the late 2000s as a stakeholder, and was really instrumental in helping us getting our rooftop version on board and out in the market. So before I go into the product side, we're here supporting the product nationwide in either in equipment sales as well as tech support and application engineering, et cetera. I know the couple of product lines that we have rolled out. One of them is specifically with Aisin, for the gas heat pump. And then, we're working with Yoshi over there at Aisin World America, our North American representative, in bringing on, more distributors across the country to help, roll this out even more evenly, et cetera, from what we've done in the past. Sorry for the lengthy intro, Joe.
No, that's a great intro. And so for those of you on the webinar today and viewing it later, Aisin is a fully owned subsidiary of Toyota North America, and they manufacture a CHP unit that PERC is working with on a certification program. Aisin combined with Blue Mountain Energy makes for a combined heating and cooling one-stop shop solution. So it's a unique opportunity to use propane for all of your needs, your control needs. So tell us a little bit about mechanical cooling, your technology and how it works. I know that it's a rooftop unit. Tell us about what I know in heating and cooling lingo, right? We talk about tonnage of cooling. Tell us about what that means for your unit and what the typical capacities might mean for on an application type basis, Tom.
To keep it, I'll break it up in as far as the technology, and then I'll roll into capacities, et cetera. And, we mentioned gas-fired heating and cooling equipment, but to really compare what we are is everybody is used to an electric air conditioning unit. In the product lines that we have right now, it would be convenience stores, strip malls, commercial, industrial applications. So wherever you see a unit on the roof or something like that, that's exactly what that's our competition out there in the electric world. How it works is no different than what's up there and what you're used to walking by or seeing that electric air conditioning unit. We have the same air movement, we have the same controls, we have the same refrigerant circuitry. Everything is identical out there except for how we move the refrigeration with the compressors. In the electric world, it's a little black hermetic compressor that moves the refrigerant from either indoor or outdoor, et cetera, providing heating and cooling. What we do is use an internal combustion engine that turns open drive scroll compressors. So from the compressor technology through the whole system, it's no different than the electrics out there in the world. What we've really focused on is that engine that drives those compressors, and really focused since our early days of research and development. It was all about finding that engine that is designed around dry fuel. There is a difference between a liquid fueled engine and a dry fuel. And those were the lessons learned that we learned in the early 80s and 90s of what not to do with prior technology. And that's why in this development with PERC and the product line that's out there right now is specifically as a result of that, in focusing on that. Our engines, depending on what size, is a Toyota-based engine. It's a very common engine in North America, not just in air conditioning, but it's forklifts, concrete smoothing. It's used across multiple construction market segments, and parts are readily available, and it's just a real solid engine. And then the nice part about what we've done with that technology is went one step further. Instead of a typical air conditioning unit turning on, okay, I need to cool or heat, and then, oh, I met satisfaction with the thermostat, and turn off. Well, we've converted that to what we call variable refrigerant flow, or related to the engine, variable RPM. So now we can load match whatever the heating or cooling demand is in the building. We can then match the RPM and consumption of fuel to match what's going on in the building, so we're not overcooling or overheating, and thereby giving you a more constant comfort there for indoors, as well as a constant steady stream of, in this case, propane fuel across the engine. Rule of thumb, these units are anywhere from 1 gallon per hour to 2 gallons per hour, depending on the size, the applications, commercial buildings, but probably our biggest market segment is the rural area. Obviously, propane is used to having that label on it, but in this case, it definitely does help. And that is cannabis grow facilities are mainly outside of metropolitan areas, so therefore off the grid, and sometimes off the grid of the natural gas. And we have multiple cases here in our backyard. Is exactly that. There was the industrial park that these facilities are in, there was not enough electricity, but we can give them high efficiency propane fired gas equipment for cooling and not take up all their electricity load. So it's really a win-win out there across that, commercial buildings, or even up till date, we're probably 75% retrofit installs, even inside metropolitan cities. So there are blocks or neighborhoods that are electric grid restrained, that propane would solve that problem as well.
So what does it represent, do you think, in an average installation cost savings versus grid electricity? Is there a payback that you have calculated that shows this is, where we think the payback is for installing our unit.
Yeah, for the propane industry, that has been a great endeavor. And it's easy to say in a natural gas setting, if that customer has natural gas, we can do a fairly good payback period because of the tariffs that are fixed out there on the LDC world. And however, in the propane market, there are, we don't have those tariffs that are fixed, et cetera. So it was very important for us to develop that relationship with the marketer that's in that area for the end user. So we help bring that propane marketer to the project and say, okay, if it was natural gas, here's what that rate would be. Oh, by the way, look how many gallons we're going to be giving you. And that has really proven a good win-win, even with the propane projects that we have in our backyard. It's neat to see just rows and rows and rows of tanks of propane for these facilities, because then that marketer can then take whatever volume's going through a cannabis world and maybe go down the street and pick up new business. There's opportunities outside of that. So hopefully I answered that right. So
no, I think that's great. You bring up an interesting point. I love this industry. I've been in it a long time. I love the gritty entrepreneurial spirit of propane marketers, even the grittiness of that same grittiness to CEOs and high-level executives of large organizations in this industry as well. And you really hit it on the head when you say they know their markets. They know their markets. They know where they can go. I think that's so spot on in terms of how our propane marketers go to market. They know their markets, and they know, who can use technologies. So as they uncover opportunities, and look for this kind of opportunity, rural, I get that, kind of the fringes. One of the things that popped into my mind, you said about commercial properties, even like convenience type stores. The fastest growing convenience store today isn't really exactly a convenience store, but a little general store, right? The Dollar Generals now are the fastest growing store in the country. And they're always on the fringe, right? They like to be in the country. And we have a couple up our way, and they all have propane. So anyway, as you see opportunities for your technology, tell me what you think the sweet spot is. Where do you think the best kind of sweet spot in terms of application is for your technology for the average or even above average propane marketer to apply that to?
I think there's a great opportunity from the marketer's perspective. And I'm just going to use the main reason why we delved into this product line to start with. Okay. And I'm just going to use a natural gas business model. And that was at the time when we started all this in the late 90s, early 2000s, was a gas utility across the South has to wait for a bad winter to sell gas. Same with a marketer out there. Oh, or barbecue or drying or, whatever multiple use for the home, et cetera. So we have in the desert Southwest or across the South, you have 10 months out of the year that are cooling. So the gas utility, LDC, wanted a product that would burn gas in those 10 months, 9-10 months, to level their spot gas buying to now I have a year-round in-use burner tip that's providing cooling when all we were limited to was heating or drying or whatever. So move ahead a decade, that's where we're at. We're millions and millions of run hours on this equipment, which relates to however many millions you want to say, because I'm over 11 million right now. Okay, that could have been 11 million gallons out there on a marketer perspective. Okay, so for a marketer, it's even a better opportunity because now you can go back to the same customer and say, can I give you an option for cooling? instead of me waiting for the space heater in the warehouse, why can't I go after your air conditioning? So there's a whole new market segment just in space cooling, or with our chillers and heaters. You got industrial processing, be it food or any of that. There's just plenty of opportunities out there just with existing. It's not like we have to wait for, how would I say, oh my goodness, here's a new opportunity across the country. No, everybody's got air conditioning. Hey, here's an option. If you're going to keep this building for 20, 30 years, you have a good payback period to go after that. So there's some great marketing studies and great opportunities that would be worth looking into.
And that's another reason why I think your product, although it's not CHP per se, it fits into this same space of resilient solutions that propane can provide, right? In places where we wouldn't normally think. And we've had some wake-up calls, right? Recently, we've got the California wildfires that result in brownouts and some often rolling blackouts even, right, in certain areas. And this is a solution for that kind of problem. Or I'm sure you've gotten some heightened interest from the grid problems we had in Texas, right, in February. Here we had grid problems based upon weather event, but at its core, these grid problems are about a power generation source being miles away from where the energy is used. And you solve that problem just like CHP does in terms of having your cooling solution where it's needed, adds to the efficiency, etc. So in keeping with that, kind of dovetailing from that, do you see increased opportunities, Tom, in those areas of the country that have been hit with what I'll call these wake-up calls?
We have, in fact, it's the interest is hitting more of our research and development team, and that is not create a new device for air conditioning, but repurpose it, meaning you put our system on a trailer with a propane tank, you have cooling, within a day or so, in whatever application. It could be a Red Cross front end, it could be any of that. So resilience type response, first mover or first advantage mover for catastrophic events. More than once now, we've been asked to, hey, do you have a mobile solution?
Wow.
Well, and all it is an assembly of an existing infrastructure. You don't have to create anything new. So I need a trailer, I need some GHPs or a CHP, it doesn't matter, a generator, all propane fired, and I'll meet your propane truck there X time, and let's get moving. So
exactly. Yeah, we're getting calls for things like mobile microgrids run on propane. So it makes sense to me to hear that folks are also asking for mobile climate control. It's very important, right? You've got critical components that have to be kept at certain temperatures, like vaccinations, and they can't get below certain temperatures or it's catastrophic. So just a reminder for those of you that are on, if you have questions, you can either hit your raise hand, we could recognize you, and you can ask a question. Come on if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, you can always use the chat box to ask any questions you have about specifics. So just a reminder there. Curious also, though, in terms of, let's say one of our propane marketers hears about this and finds an opportunity. Walk me through a little bit about how we can steer that process. What kind of information do they need to find out in order to size the job properly and assist you in assisting them? How can we baseline it, if you will?
This technology, whether it be ours, gas-fired, propane-fired, et cetera, or electric, this level of technology is what we call an applied system, meaning it's going to have to be engineered. You won't see this level of technology at Home Depot, go down and pick up a conditioning unit, electric, et cetera. So what we have in-house is an application engineering team that we would give that marketer a list of things that we would need. Here's a list of information. It would be great if they had a set of plans, but most of the time they don't, and we work through that to say, here's what we'll need.
Okay.
And then here's some boundaries. This product won't work on a 500 square foot cabin, so learning the boundaries of where this would apply, that's what we're here for,
Yep.
and then, next one, they'll know, et cetera. So all that engineering application support would be here locally for them.
So a couple of questions that came in. One is sort of a logical dovetail from the conversation we just had here, asking, basically, how is the product sold? Would you sell it directly to the propane marketer? Do you sell direct to a consumer, distributor? How is it that what's your business model, Tom, in terms of how do you go to business with the product?
For the multi-zone or for the majority of the product, that is done through a distributorship network. So for example, until AWA Yoshi establishes more of Blue Mountain Energies across the country, I'm still supporting, the nationwide sales and, as we have done for over a decade. And what would take place is we would sell to that marketer. Now, if the marketer has a mechanical plumbing, background, which most of them do, then it's us training them how far they want to go into handling that process from an engineering perspective, et cetera, clear down to the maintenance of the engine. Sometimes they want to do it, and then sometimes the end user wants to do it, but we'll support whatever, coming from the other way, we will support whatever that end user or marketer wants to do in that.
Good. So just a little follow-up to that, and maybe give a little color to what your distribution network looks like today. How many do you have? Are they geographic in scope? Are they just kind of across the board in terms of representing your product as a solution? And the other part of it to me is, are there any gaps, right? Are you looking for, gee, I really wish we had someone in Texas? Or I'm just always curious how we can better support the commercialization efforts of our partners at PERC.
In the original business model, we always, empowered the natural gas distributor in that area. It's very important that the fuel supplier be part of that decision process, whether they're a seller of the product or an installer of the product or just providing the fuel. It's a very important decision, and I call them influencers that the marketer has, whether he's tangible involved in that sale and application solution or not, because we're using their fuel. It's very important that they are on board earlier than later on that front.
Yeah, you talk about them being stakeholders, partners. It's not just a shelf product, right? And it's not an easy sale. And just a little commercial for PERC. PERC has training available. We have a training module on partnering, and I think that's important, right? To do that kind of partnering. And Mary Rachel's coming on, so we got to wrap up. I do have a couple of questions. So just another dovetail on distribution quick, and then one last question. So the other question in terms of distribution was, we talked about partnerships and what does it take though? Do we really, there really isn't necessarily a capital investment on these stakeholders. It's really more of an interest in understanding and a willingness to go out and partner and sell the product, right?
It's your own capital, it's your own bootstraps. We're not the type of product that says, oh, you got to buy 10 of those and warehouse this. No, that's not how these systems get sold. It is from that relationship, from that application, let's work together, come up with a solution for a close.
And the one last question, and it's a dovetail from what I was talking about earlier. Partnerships aren't always easy, but they need to be formed in order to sell, especially engineered product, right? I'm curious from your perspective, Tom, about training. Do you offer specific training? Do you recommend certain independent training in order to better understand the applications and the engineering behind these solutions?
Yeah, we offer quite a few modules, and obviously over the last year has been all web-based. And so from the sales and application discussion to, oh, we got a job, well, now we have an install training. And now a year or so later, we need to do a maintenance on an engine. We have that training as well. So they're not out there all on their own. We have that whole back-end support to onboard these marketers on whatever level they want to go.
Perfect. So just, I guess, just to wrap up today and to say thank you again, Tom, for your time and for being here. And it's always fun to kind of interact about something rather than present it and put people to sleep. So thank you very much.
Well, first I want to say thank you. PERC has been an awesome partner in the product development and supporter overall. And don't be afraid to pick up the phone. We're here to support and educate along with your training. And I'd like to see more products selling through marketers. I'm really looking forward to that.
I can't thank you enough, and your work is great, and just keep up the good work. And those of you out there, if there is interest, follow up with Tom. His contact information is in the chat box from earlier today. Thank you for joining us.